about some challenges that you had going to a variety of different schools. And why did you have to go to so many different schools?
So with being very ADHD dyslexia on a very high scale, my brain, let's put it like that, was at an 8th grade, 7th grade level. With that being said, some education schools cannot, they can only do so much.
Right.
You know, they can only look at you and be like, I'm trying their hardest to teach you the way they think this is good for you. But it's not. And so I went to 13 different high schools, because every school that we went to, they would be like, oh, we can take her. They take me within a month or two or however long I was there. I don't know the calculation how long I would be at school for going through 13 different schools. They were like, oh, we can't help her. She's uneducated. She's unteachable.
What?
And so,
that just seems unbelievable, because that's the whole point of going to school, is to learn. And if there's a challenge with a student, then they were just like, we can't help you, just like that.
Yeah, they did their work. They tried what they thought would help me learn, and it was unsuccessful. So I left high school my senior year. I graduated with a special ed diploma, which is lower than a GED, which is something that you can't go anywhere with, basically. And I went I didn't even take an SAT.
Why? So it's lower than a GED.
Correct.
You said you can't do anything with it?
Mm-mm. I would have to go through a different program to try to get into a proper college.
Oh, I see.
And so they didn't teach me how to learn. So it's such a huge struggle when you don't know how to learn because no one taught you.
Right.
So after the 13 different schools, you're a senior, they let you go, and you try to figure it out. And that's when I know we were also talking about at 19, as soon as I left high school, about a year later, I checked myself into rehab. And I was drinking, my classmates were not, my peers were not the best influence.
Right.
So I was surrounded by not the best people. And so the structure of rehab was my safe zone.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand that a tiny bit. I was in a lot of the remedial classes, and with that comes a lot of bullying.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to be, I used to have this, the grocery stores, they used to, back in the day, they still do the paper grocery bags.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take the paper grocery bag, and I was so embarrassed to be in this remedial math class, I would cover up my math book with a paper bag, and I would always try to just be I wouldn't be late, but I would always try to be the last one in that class, because I was just so embarrassed to be in that class.
Oh no!
And then our teacher used to say, if you're not passing, you're failing, and then he would hand out pennies and be like, here, you're not going to pass, so just flip a penny. And
what?
Who hired this person?
Right.
But I can understand a little bit. But 13 high schools, so you would go into one high school, they would say, well, we can't educate her. So were they all in the same area, or did you have to move?
No, so I would go, my parents tried boarding school, which was I think a 2-hour drive. And so I would go there, and I would stay there for a month and go through the process of, training, because when you are diagnosed with the learning challenge, you have to go through an IEP, you have to go through testing, which is 4 or 5 hour long testing. And so every time I switched schools, I would go through these testing, because every school has a different rule book,
right,
depending on the county. And so I would you would go, and they would assist you, and they would see if their program in their school would work. My dad would drive an hour to take me to school. If that school didn't work, I went to a Christian school. I went to a campus that was around the corner of my house, or then I would go to another campus that was 15, 20 minutes from my house.
So you never really had the opportunity to have all those high school experiences?
I did. I kept a lot of friends.
Oh,
I kept a lot of the friends to different. Every school I had like one, maybe one friend I kept in touch with.
Stay with you and you and you over there and you from here and.
Yeah, I had friends in every county. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. So I got to experience, this person was going to a football game. I'm like, oh, we're gonna go to this school, and like this person was going to homecoming. I'm like. At the after the after parties, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to this after party. So it was quite fun. Yeah, can't go wrong with that. So it was quite fun, going through different schools and stuff like that. But at that point when you're a 10th grader, you kind of just go with it. Like I knew at a very young age my disability and my challenge, and I just went with it. I can't be taught. Okay, so I'm just going to make the best of whatever you bring to my table, my desk. I'm just going to make the most of it and move on.
And it's just something like you had the inner strength to continue to move on. Because I'm sure if a lot of kids, if they were put in that situation, it would be very, very upsetting and very depressing and thinking, geez, no one wants to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And no one cares to find a way to help me, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you would leave the schools, what they would just tell your parents, just we can't help her. And
then you try something new. I think that's something that maybe was always instilled in my young childhood. If something doesn't work out, try something new.
Sure. Okay,
this school didn't work out for me. Let's see if another school work out. This county didn't work for me. Let's try another county. I think that was the core of what was going on in my head.
Was there one that actually wound up buckling down and really helping?
No. Not at all.
I'm pulling straws here.
I know, trying to see something work. Leaving school was after my senior year. I think by my senior year, I remember they were trying to do a quiz or a test at the end of the year or mid-year. And I really did not understand the question. And of course, you're in the back of the class or outside the class, and you have that one teacher that's reading to you and going over each word with you. And I'm like, at that point, I just kind of gave up. I'm like, this is going to be irrelevant in my life. Clearly, it's proven. And he's going over the questions. I'm like, don't understand. And at one point, going through reading to me the test, I understood one of the questions. But at that point, I'm like, I'm not even going to...
Well, I'm sure it was hard to stay motivated going to all these different schools when they're like, well, we can't help her, so, pack up, so to speak, and then go to another school. 13, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I think by my senior year, I was, you look at a test and, nope, don't understand. Nope, don't understand. And they have to, because by law, the No Child Left Behind law, they have to help you. So eventually, they just gave me the answers. And I just, all right, thank you. Can I go now?
And that's something, because I know that, we spoke to Huntington Learning Center last week.
Okay.
And the owners are just wonderful. Mm-hmm. That what they're doing is just phenomenal. And they were saying how many times they'll get a 6th grader or even a 5th grader that, doesn't know the alphabet or can't write a sentence. Mm-hmm. And, they just push them through. And, but it's been a topic that's come up quite a few times recently in some of the podcasts, is that, the issues surrounding youth in schools. And, you walk into a school and you think that that's the place that's, going to be there to guide you, to help you, to mentor you, to, just all those experiences that you have, both scholastically or, sports, academics, and just developing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I can imagine how difficult it must have been. But look at you now.
Yeah, it took me a second. I think a lot of self journey, reflection, and figuring out and accepting. I laugh about it now, but a child that's right now going through the same thing I did, I wasn't laughing at all.
No, right.
In high school or elementary school or any of this reason, and I think looking back, you have to. It's not you, and it's not the school. The school systems are not doing well anyways. No matter what you try to fix or what you want to do, a lot of our school system isn't doing well. So you can't just put the blame on you or yourself or anyone. It's just, you have to slowly figure out a way to overcome that issue, to overcome that problem. And I always go back to, if you put a person in the middle of the country, no language, doesn't know anything, eventually they're going to figure it out. It's going to take them a long time, but they will. And it's the same with what happened to me. What's going to continue to happen is you're going to put a child into a school that doesn't understand them. And eventually they're going to figure it out. Eventually they're going to figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Exactly.
And then when they leave or when they find their right purpose, they're going to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So it's the never losing hope, then keep going and don't blame anyone, even don't blame yourself. Especially.
And school's hard enough as it is.
Right.
With all the extraneous things going on, with family and friends and just everything. Life in general. I mean, that age is just such a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was never really. My grades in high school were not all that good. But I excelled in sports.
I did that part right.
Yeah, I definitely excelled in sports. So you find something that you're good at, right?
Right.
And then as time went on, it got a little bit easier for me,
Mm-hmm.
but not a whole lot. I would be the one studying for an exam for hours and hours, and then there was a friend be like, oh yeah, I looked at my notes, and I'm like, ooh.
I can't. I was always so envious of those people. I'm like,
Yeah, the people that walk around with a notebook as a prop, and then then there's the people that study for an exam for 5 hours. But
yeah, it's a struggle, but then you move on, and it's not it's not the end of the world. There is other tools and activities that we could all do to figure out what works best for everyone.
As the founder of the Dyslexia Studio, what exactly is that? Some place where families can go, or you have?
So I created this about 5 years ago. It's in the making, and we're finalizing everything. Should be launching next year.
Oh, nice.
And it is basically where fashion meets education. In being a part of the fashion world for so long, as being a model, as being in the pageant world,
Mm-hmm.
I just realized that there's a disconnect. And education in general can be very political. But the fashion world is a unique, special place for everyone. Everyone has their style. There's always that one shirt, there's one shoes, one necklace. The go-to that everyone just feels confident. I don't care who you are, where you're from, what age you're at. There's always that one piece in your closet, on your dresser drawer that makes you feel who you are inside. And then I realized that, why can't we bring the two together? Why can't we have those two worlds connect?
Sure.
Because with learning challenges,
Mm-hmm.
they're missing that one delicate piece in their closet, on their dresser drawer.
Right.
And then the fashion world doesn't understand, the education part. So I think I want to combine those two together. And so that's where I'm going with this, with the Dyslexia Studio. We're launching, so what we're doing is we're bringing in top artists to design its limited collection for hoodies. These artists are dyslexic, ADHD, dysgraphia, have some type of learning challenge, mental health issues, have gone through something within the learning challenges. And I'm basically giving them a blank canvas.
Nice. And
we'll be selling that on our website. And so every limited collection would be telling a different story from the artist's point of view. And that's kind of where I want to go with it, and that's where it will be launching next year, to get these artists to there's more to this than just dyslexic. There's more to this than just ADHD. We are a community of family, and why can't we have best of both worlds? Why can't everyone have that one piece that they love and feel good? And that's kind of where the Dyslexia Studio came in.
Sure, and that's awesome, because then they're going to be designing them, right?
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, basically I was talking to one of my team members, and they're like, well, what do you want them to just draw? And I'm like, I'm giving them a blank canvas. Like, I don't, there's no rules. There's no limits. There's no nothing. I'm just, here's a hoodie if you want it gray, if you want it black, if you want it, whatever color you want it, we'll have it for you, and draw whatever you want, whatever design you want. We're doing it for youth and adults. So it will be for our youth, and it will be for adults, for all sizes and all race and genders and cultures. So I run it unisex.
Nice. So you will provide them like paints and dyes and.
Yeah, so we'll basically collaborate on whatever they want, whatever they need, whatever time that they're giving to come up with the design that they would like on the hoodie. I just ask, when we find our artist, if they have a type of learning challenge. Mm-hmm. And if you want to share your story or not. I ran into a girl yesterday. She doesn't want to share a story, but she's an illustrator with she does a lot of children's books. Okay. But she doesn't want to share a story. That's fine. We'll put her name there. We'll recognize her. Yeah. And we'll just continue with our platform and our marketing style. We'll continue with that and not use your story or her name. And that was fun with her. And so that's where we're going with Dyslexia Studio.
That's going to be awesome because, I think art is just, it's so special, right? Mm-hmm. Because you get to create what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. And each one of them are going to be designing a hoodie. I just think it's just awesome.
Yeah, some type of hoodie that, represents whatever they want. And it doesn't have to be education. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to have a book on it or something like that. It doesn't have to have letters on it. It can be whatever your style. If you're a fashion artist and you love the, different styles. It can be whatever, cartoons, whatever they feel.
I love it.
They can do.
And will they be for sale, like on the website?
They
and then
will
the proceeds will go back into the organization so you can continue to help?
Correct. Yeah, we are working on giving back to the Dyslexia Foundation, where I'm a part, the board member team I'm a part of, and then also going back to the schools. A lot of our schools are not diagnosing kids with learning challenges at a young age because of income reasons. It's another thing that that's a huge impact that a lot of people in the community are trying to really push, and a lot of our governors are actually trying to push as well. And so a lot of some of those proceeds will go back to different organizations throughout our country to help push more into getting our schools evaluated for the children that have a learning challenge quicker.
That's so important. Like the conversation that we were having with the Hoodies Learning Center. I'm like, so do you talk to these teachers that are just, basically just pushing out these kids to a grade that they're like, what that sixth grader that couldn't even write a sentence? Like, how does he participate? Does he just sit in the back of the room and draw? I mean, what does he do? Mm-hmm. And how do you, don't you as a teacher have an oath? You know what I mean? They're like to be, honest and give 100% and, but I mean, as a teacher, he's like, oh, you can check with teachers. And I'm like, what could they possibly say? How does that conversation go? Your son can't write a sentence, but we're going to push him to the sixth grade. It's a law. And but he was just saying, a lot of times it's pressure from the schools, pressure from the parents, and so thank God there's a company around like that helps, and people like yourself that are out there understanding the needs. Yeah, because I know that the mental health portion, I believe there is a high percentage that it does go unnoticed. Mm-hmm. Because you just you have these kids and they're all in the group and they're always busy throughout the day, and that's just sometimes maybe it gets overlooked. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the teachers are doing the best that they can. And there's so many great programs. So because of my ADHD, the level I'm at with ADHD, I have a memory loss. And it's not necessarily that I have a memory loss. It's that my brain moves faster than the average person. And so I can be somewhere, we can be having a conversation and my brain's already on to the next day. And so I don't remember what this conversation or where I was at this time. And, there are programs like, Huntington and other programs that at 11th grade, my mother finally found a program that could help me structure and teach me how to control that and how to work around that memory loss that I have through ADHD. And that was by 11th grade. So I was going through all of elementary school, all of middle school, and half of high school. My whole life with this memory problem, and gratefully there are programs that are like that, and it's just unfortunately just diving into the internet and trying to figure out what's updated research, who's saying what. 1 in 5, they've been saying that for years, for decades. It's like our population number is different, our school numbers are different. It's not 1 in 5.
Everything about school is different now, especially with all the technology. And
so it's there's certain, it's unfortunate for parents when you have a child with learning challenges, you've got to dive in, you've got to do your research. I was talking to a parent the other day, her kid's going to a learning challenge program, but it's not updated research. It's not today's research for learning challenges. And I said, it's good for the overall brain for your child. It's good to help your child structure what his and her learning is. Is it assigned to help with dyslexia? No. But you just need to watch it and watch them grow and be there to support.
Right.
And if you don't think that those things are going to help, then find a different program.
Sure.
So unfortunately, that's just where we're at.
I think nowadays there are a lot more programs available than there used to be. Because I think that people outside of the schools, like Huntington, for example, and they've been around for several years, but just to go back to them as an example, they're seeing the need for to pick up the slack, so to speak. But there's all these really great programs out there that do see the need for mental health, to help, support services for education, and all of those, different kinds of programs that, you were, thank God, able to get a hold of and, attend.
And they're doing a wonderful job. There's so many law changing right now. Like I said, some of our governors across the country are catching on that bandwagon and getting involved on what programs are going to actually make an impact on our children with learning challenges. And that's the most important thing that we could do, is continue to talk about it, continue to have these broadcasts with all educators and with different organizations around the world, because nothing's going. If we're all just not saying anything,
right,
it's not going to change. So it's wonderful what they're doing and how they're doing, and everyone is doing a different thing.
In your voice,
yes.
And I love that you're giving back to like your community, so to speak, and they see how far you've come, and you're such an incredible role model, right? Because they think if you have this unbelievable story of all these different schools and the challenges, and basically your entire childhood was spent taking tours of different schools, going through all the different schools and feeling hopeless and helpless. You must have just been like, here we go again, another school. And I look back and it's just like, I struggled so much, so much. There were times I'm like, I just don't understand this. I just couldn't get it. I just was so frustrated. I was just so incredibly frustrated, and I was just like, why can't I figure this out? I'm like, is it the teacher or is it me? Am I just not being taught right, or am I just like, I can't understand anything that's in front of me? It was just so difficult. And, we were laughing about it, but,
I love that now.
No, I mean, if a quiz was coming up, I'd be like, if a quiz was like in 2 weeks, I'd be like, for 2 weeks, I'd be like paranoid. I was so much test anxiety, and just so much went into it, and I was like, oh my God, looking back, I'm like, I put myself through all that, what I mean? But it was so stressful, right? Because I was just, we're trying to, get the grades, trying to, just get grades. I was trying to get right above a C. I'm like, if I had a B,
not even a C.
If I had a B, I was like, yeah, But my parents always just said, if you wholeheartedly are giving it your best, and I knew, because sometimes, I studied, and then, sometimes. Did you really study? But I would really study on the highlighters, notepads, Post-its, tabs, arrows, and it was just, and I did, I did give it 100%, but it just wasn't enough. Something wasn't clicking, and it was just so crazy that once I got through to up to the my master's degree, I was like, wow, I really think I can do this. Because even my bachelor's degree, I was going to the writing lab all the time because I was struggling. Even then, I'm like, I gotta beat this. Like, this has been enough years. So I would go to the writing lab every day, and then finally it just all worked out. Thank God.
I'm trying. I thought it was quite entertaining. My son, he's 10 months, and we're watching little ABC stuff and phonics stuff, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching this video, singing it to him, and then it's like an AB phonics where you say the alphabet and then you sound out the letters.
Oh, right.
But it pauses in the middle, and because it does some type of phonics learning challenge for little babies. Anyways,
wow.
I'm trying to do this, and I completely fail at it.
Oh.
And I'm just like, okay, it's okay, we'll do it again. And I think it's going to be quite interesting learning with my son, because maybe for me, which I'm learning now, is I think I missed certain parts and certain cues and certain, because I was going through 13 different schools, because I was getting bullied and my mind was somewhere else, or, sitting there trying to figure out how to read the first sentence while everyone else was on the 10th sentence. Yeah. And I think I missed the basics in like the different cues in the middle too. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to learn with my son because of that reason, and trying to figure out, I think, how to learn again, because I was never taught how to learn. And so it's quite interesting to me going through life and actually sitting there trying to do things. And it's like, I don't really know how to remember to take a test. I don't know.
Right.
I haven't taken a test in years, even when I was going to 50 different schools. I didn't have to. My senior year, I went to two classes. Because that's all I needed, because I had a disability. I was graduating with a disability, and I already met all my credits. So all I had to do was go in for history, and then I didn't have to take certain quizzes because I didn't need them to graduate. Right. And at that point, we all gave up. Wow. So I think it's, like you said, going through the process and going through what works for you, and when it clicks, now you're a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something, I just, every time I graduated from high school, and I'm like, God, thank God. I'm like, God, out of here alive, and then I got through the associate degree barely. And then the bachelor's degree was just, but I was just like, all right, I'm just, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to figure it out, and I just took initiatives on my own like you did, and I just, never gave up like you, and here we are. I always tell all the kids and everyone, you just have to figure out what works for you. Yeah. And not... Everyone's learning style is different.
Everyone's learning style is different. It's not a stop sign. It's a roadblock. It's going to be okay. Yeah. Figure out, especially figure out what you're incapable. Because once I figured out, like, dyslexia and ADHD had a huge problem with my mental health, it came with a lot of other things. Sure. Once I figured out that was the core value, it's like, okay, let me work on that. What exactly is dyslexia? What exactly is ADHD? Finding out how the brain structures. Okay, that works. And then moving to something else, really dive into who you are, and that comes with mental health and self-aware and self-love, and I completely am all about as well, because if I didn't have the self-love, the self-care, and the souls, then those are what we would be.
Right. And that's, we had one of the workshops we did through Juvenile Justice Impact. We had one called Helping Minds, and we had people there from several different organizations. And we did vision boards, and we did all sorts of great things. And it was I'll probably have. I only did we had the one Helping Minds, but I would like to do probably a lot more with regard to the mental health. And I was talking to the Las Vegas Metro Police is very, very big supporter. They go to all the workshops because they see the youth. They go to schools and talk to them, and their support has just been incredible. And I was just talking to them because we're going to start our workshop planning like February 5th, I believe, is going to be our first one, and then we'll do one, each month and have a different theme. And so definitely the mental health one that we had, that we talked about, depression and suicidal ideation, and just what do you do even if you don't feel like you have a suicidal ideation? What do you do if a friend comes up to you? Just anyone in life. How do you handle that? And it was really it was a fun day with all the vision boards, but at the same time, we really got to talk about some serious things. Like safeness was there, at least athletically, and it's just incredible how the community comes together.
And that's my hope for having this conversation and having millions of conversations around the world constantly throughout the years. I'm praying that eventually you'll feel comfortable with being like, this is ADHD. Yeah, we don't know 100% exactly how it functions in the brain cells, but every brain is different, so are we really ever going to know? But at least we're aware of how that there will be someone that has an issue with learning challenges. There's going to be some issues. And okay, it's acceptable. It's nothing to be shy about. It's nothing to be, let's focus on self-love, self-care, mental health. You have a learning challenge. Okay, let's focus on what tools like mental health and self-love and how we could be aware of it and help the next generation succeed.
And coping with it too. Because, when you're struggling to that degree in school, it's crippling.
Very crippling. Very crippling. I don't.
It just.
You go down a very dark path.
I used to beat myself up why don't I understand any of this what's going on? And the teachers were just they weren't, they could have been a little bit more supportive. I'm trying not to, so someone goes back and, beats up the high school, but you know what I mean? Just like you experienced, but it was a totally different times back then where, I think now, the mental health and the awareness and coping skills is number one, for sure. Or at least it's up there. High up there, because when you have these challenges mentally, it then it affects you physically, mentally, emotionally, right? It's just a trickle
It's
effect.
a downward spiral. Like you have dyslexia. For me, you have dyslexic and ADHD, and then comes after you're walking. You don't understand something in a test. Okay, then you're having a conversation with your friend, but you're not, because my communication skills is very high with my learning challenge, and you're having a conversation and you do not understand what they're saying, and you have no idea what's going on, like what the topic is, what you should say, and then you're sitting there trying to be friends with someone, and then that's done, and then you walk to school, and then you look yourself in the mirror and say, what just happened? Like, I have no idea. I walked this whole day with you have just no idea who you are. You're a child. You're growing, so you automatically don't really know who you are. So you're learning who you are. Sure. But then you have no idea of your surroundings and what's really the actions, the people talking, the words. That does something to a person, sure. To a little girl. And then you go home and you're trying to be the best person that you can be as a daughter. It definitely downward spirals every day. For me, when I was in high school and elementary school, and then you go back to school the next day, and then it's like, oh, you have to be put in the other classroom. And eventually, by the end of my middle school, I was in the outside classroom the whole time. Like the smaller classroom, the special ed classroom.
Oh, right.
I was only going in there for like math and science and reading. And then by the end of the school year, I didn't even go to my I didn't even go in the building.
Your enthusiasm and your interest probably.
Right.
Where was that? You know what I mean? So if you have all these teachers that probably were like, geez, they don't believe in me, so it was probably hard for you to pick up your bootstraps, so to speak, and carry on and try to always be motivated.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think a couple of times I remember I would just hang out. Like I would just go to the special education school or building or classroom at the time, and I would just talk to the teacher, we would just talk about life, and she had 2 little frogs, water frogs, I remember, and I would just hang out with them. My duty was to clean this.
Water the plants.
I
used to water the plants, yeah.
Water the plants, like, what are you going to do today? Oh, what's your schedule? And then you read in their schedule, you read your schedule, and I'm like, okay, lunches.
Yeah, lunch, no, that's it. Just get days over.
Yeah. It's like,
Bell just rang, full day of school, we're out of here.
Right, and it's sad to know that, we're not alone in this, and that's the craziness about all of this, is that people are just like, oh, this is wild, and no, we're not.
We find out all too often that it's so relevant and so right here in front of us. I mean, the kids that are going to the schools need all of this extra help, and not all of them, but I mean, after, especially speaking to some of the educators that I've spoken to on the different podcasts, Huntington Learning Center, I mean, their outlook is just 100% different from, let's just say, a teacher who is,
every day going into school.
pushing that 6th grader to 7th grade that can't write a sentence. So it's just, people's different perspectives is definitely changed in this day and age.
It is, and hopefully it continues to move forward. And it's like we all talked about. It's the more we talk about it, the more it will, hopefully get to where, okay, I used to have on my phone dyslexia on my phone, old letters, and every time I would place it, someone in line or somewhere, I would be on my phone, like, oh, I'm dyslexic. What about someone that, kid you not, everywhere I went, it was like, oh, I know someone, or I struggled in high school, or my daughter's struggling, where can I get more information? Wow. It is a constant, I'm on so many groups, and I've been around the world since 2014. Every day, it's almost the same story. Is this okay? Am I doing the right thing? Is this going to be forever? Is it a disability? Is it a difference? Is it a tool in life? It's just a huge question, and the more we talk about it, hopefully the more we can get answers, and we can continue to support those schools that are helping figure out those answers.
Sure. And and that's the whole purpose of this podcast. We've had some incredible people come on like yourself, and whether they're talking about mental health, or they're talking about the Huntington Learning Center, or nutrition and what the impact that has.
Oh, don't get me started.
No, seriously, because one of my friends that she came on, she owns a company called Urban Fruits and Veggies, right? And so everything is like grown with special soils, special waters. I mean, no pesticides, nothing. And but she goes to a lot of the schools, and she was talking about on her podcast how she went into this one school, and it was just these pancakes that they would heat up in these plastic bags, and everything was just microwaved. And so she was talking about like the nutrition,
learning,
nutrition, and what an impact that has on learning, and just the child's development. And so the different people that have come on, it's always been the common thread, but the purpose is to raise the level of awareness on topics surrounding you, and this has just been incredible, because now you can have this conversation openly, because that you have you're on the board, you're a founder of a company, and it's to help those youth and those families in the same situation that you have. And I just think it's incredible.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on here and letting me tell my story, and so many others, and thanks for sharing yours as well with us.
Thank you. I know. And is there some place where people can find you, reach you, get a hold of you, email you? Where do we find you?
Yeah, so anything, Facebook and Instagram is Yvette Blaess. And yeah, you can reach out to me on there. And then Dyslexia Studio is slowly coming as for an Instagram and Facebook book. And we have to get some things organized, and hopefully we'll be launching next year.
Definitely. And if you need any help.
Thank you. Well, I can't wait to come back on here, and I'll be all jump suited up with my brand. So I'm excited.
I actually wound up wearing a jumpsuit for Halloween because I have the screenplay jumpsuit shackle. I just so happened to have the two jumpsuits that the kids were wearing in the film. I actually wound up wearing it for Halloween. I don't know how that just came up. Anyway, because you said you were going to come to jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can be reached at, if you want to send us an email, it's www.juvenilejusticeimpact@gmail.com or ImpactJJI is the website. So feel free to send us a message, and we can be found on Facebook and Instagram as well. And thank you so much for being here. And we'll definitely be in touch, and we'll have you speak at one of our workshops.
I would love to join.
That would be wonderful. Sure, you can talk to the parents too. And that's one thing that we're going to be doing is when I was speaking to the Las Vegas Metro Police, and what I really want to do is incorporate more of the parents. You know, because what's going on at home, and make sure everyone's really on the same page. And I think that'll really help. They're there a lot, but just to engage
Start a
them more.
conversation with them and what's really going on, and that's we find out that a lot. It's talking to the parents and letting them know that it's going to be okay. And here's it's as simple. I've so many contacts where someone can tell. I talk to parents all the time, and my child is having this and this problem, and it's like, okay, I can point you to this direction. What state are you in, and what do you need help in, and I can somehow through my database, I can figure out who a parent can kind of go to kind of get more of answers. Because that's again, it's a hard thing for parents to really know resources and who are the right resources as well. So
and that's what we have. We have a lot of great people in our corner. We have incredible support. We live in such a supportive community.
We do,
and everyone comes together, and that's just it. I can't say enough about it. We're super blessed.
It's good to be in Las Vegas.
It is.
Agreed.
Out of the snow in New York. I'm excited to say that.
It's not bad today.
Right.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Of course, we'll be in touch as time goes on, and we'll see you in our next workshop, and we'll figure out ways that we can help each other.
Of course.
That's what we do.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.